Um, a 63-year-old female named Punita came from Avadi, Chennai. She is a housewife from a low socioeconomic status. She was apparently normal before 2 months and now came with the complaints of yellowish discoloration of urine and eyes. Uh, Yellowish discoloration of urine and eyes.
Okay.
Pain in abdomen since 1.5 months. Vomiting since 1.5 months.
Okay.
History of presenting illness. The patient was apparently all right 2 months back when she noticed yellowish discoloration of urine and eyes. It was insidious in onset, gradual in progressive, not associated with waxing or waning of jaundice, and it is associated with pain abdomen, clay-colored stools, and generalized itching. She has
Okay.
had the complaints of pain in right upper quadrant of abdomen since 1.5 months, which was also insidious in onset, dull aching pain, continuous, mild to moderate in intensity, not radiating, and not referred. No aggravating features, and it was relieved on taking oral analgesics. She had
Okay.
of nausea, vomiting since 1.5 months. Patient gives a history of on and off episodes of vomiting, which was non-projectile, small quantity, watery gastric content, not blood or bile stained, non-foul smelling, not associated with food intake. Nausea aggravates after food intake.
Okay.
She had the complaints of dyspepsia since 1 month and loss of appetite. Loss of weight was also there, but which is not quantifiable.
Okay.
And no history of hematemesis or melena, no history of fever, previous blood transfusions, drug intake, per abdomen, or altered bowel habits. For above all complaints, patient has shown at a local hospital in Avadi, where she was treated with oral medications. However, the symptoms were and referred here for further management.
Okay.
Past history. Patient was diagnosed to have diabetes mellitus 2 months back and is on oral hypoglycemic drugs for the same. No history of any other medical comorbidities. No history of jaundice or biliary colic in the past.
Okay.
Family history. No history of malignancies in the family, like pancreatic or colonic malignancies. Personal history. The patient is on mixed diet and she has a reduced appetite, regular bowel habits, undisturbed sleep, no history of substance abuse, menstrual history, attained menopause 15 years back, and treatment history, no previous abdominal surgeries.
Okay.
A 63-year-old female, Mrs. Punita, belonging to a lower class socioeconomic status, has came with chief complaints of right upper abdominal pain, jaundice, pale stools, and itching. So I would like to examine the abdominal system.
Okay. You are going to present the inspection palpation, or your colleague is going?
My colleague, ma'am.
Okay. Then you just go to your first slide.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Can you see the slide, ma'am?
Yes, I am able to see. So, yellowish discoloration of the urine and eye since 2 months, and
Yes,
pain
ma'am.
abdomen since 1.5 months. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with these complaints, what probable diagnosis coming into your mind?
Ma'am, first of all, the jaundice came first and then pain. So, it is not a benign condition because in that pain will come first and then jaundice will come next. And there is yellowish discoloration in the urine. So maybe some problem in the bile flow.
Okay. So, with this 2 months duration,
Yes,
and pain abdomen, nausea, vomiting, straight away you cannot come to a conclusion of a malignancy. But the
Yeah,
age 63, then you have to have a suspicion.
yes, ma'am.
This yellowish discoloration, pain, abdomen, and nausea, vomiting, probably something related with your hepatobiliary system.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then again, you have to go for a elaboration of the complaint, history of presenting illness. You go to the
Okay,
next
ma'am.
slide.
Yes, ma'am.
So the patient was normal 2 months back and noticed yellowish discoloration of the urine and eye. What's the reason for the yellowish discoloration of the eyes?
Bilirubin deposition in the sclera, ma'am.
So it has a, what is the, why it has a prediction to the eyes?
Mucosal, I mean, I don't.
So conjunctival, the
Yes,
sclera
ma'am.
has a tendency.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that bilirubin get deposited in the sclera. So what are all the other places you have to look for the jaundice?
In the skin, and then nail beds, mucosal areas, and a palate. Um,
Yes, even when the patient gets recovered, all this area will, that yellowish discoloration disappear. The last to disappear is your conjunctiva.
okay, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So because of that content that is present in the sclera, that has a special prediction to the bilirubin. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
So this jaundice, you told, is an insidious onset. Okay. Gradually progressive and not associated. So not associated with waxing and waning. What you expect?
Ma'am, if there is waxing and waning, then there can be ampullary variety of periampullary carcinoma, ma'am.
So if the patient is relieved of jaundice for some time and feeling better, then again going for jaundice, you have to suspect something that obstructing the ampulla of water.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So at that time, what history you must ask?
Ma'am, I have to ask whether the suffering has subsided and she was okay for some time. And also, there can be one more finding, ma'am. Melina will be there
Yes,
in that
yes,
case.
that is the most important thing. Okay. Melina
Yes,
will be the history. What is the reason for
yes.
that, Melina?
Ma'am, when uh, the tumor, due to the, less blood supply, it gets necrosed and sloughed off, and so that there is melina in the urine.
Okay, very good. So because of this mucosal ulceration and sloughing of the tumor and tumor necrosis, that obstruction gets relieved. So the
Yes,
patient becomes better, and the patient also have the history of melina. So
ma'am.
that gives the clue that something is related to the ampullary region. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And the patient has an associated pain abdomen, clay colored stools, and generalized itching. So what is the
Yes, ma'am.
reason for this clay colored stools?
Ma'am, it is due to the absence of stercobilinogen in the stools, ma'am. That's why it is pale colored or clay colored stools, ma'am.
What's the pathophysiology?
The enterohepatic circulation, the I mean there is no bilirubin in the intestine, ma'am. That's why it is not.
Because of that obstruction, you will not get a bile flow, sufficient bile flow to the intestinal tract. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So there won't be any metabolism. So you will get that any stercobilinogen or reason for the clay colored stools. So the itching.
The bilirubin gets deposited in the dermis, and which irritates the nerve endings. Histamines are released, or else opioids or neurotransmitters are released, and so that pruritus
So the
occurs.
bile salts are responsible for your generalized itching. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next slide. Okay. You didn't ask any history of fever. Have you asked?
There was no fever, ma'am.
You didn't mention?
I think I forgot to mention
Okay.
that,
Suppose,
ma'am.
suppose if the patient is having fever on and off. What
Yes,
could be
ma'am.
the reason?
Cholangitis, ma'am. Ascending
Yes.
cholangitis. There will be intermittent pain, intermittent fever, and intermittent jaundice.
So always you must ask the history of fever,
Okay.
rigor, and or chills. You must ask to rule out the cholangitis, because the obstructive jaundice people, they will go for recurrent infections. Cholangitis patient
Okay.
will have a fever.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So you have written upper quadrant abdomen pain 1 month, and dull aching pain,
Yes, ma'am.
and continuous and mild to moderate. Not suppose the pain is getting radiated to the back. What could be your inference?
Ma'am, in the head of pancreas carcinoma, if it involves the nerves, means it can radiate to the back, ma'am.
Okay, always you must ask. Okay, you must
Yes,
ask the
ma'am.
history of a radiation of pain to the back. That is most important. Not only for the malignancy.
Yes,
Suppose
ma'am.
if you have a that is the obstructive jaundice due to benign conditions like stone disease.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
you may have a associated biliary pancreatitis. Okay,
Yes,
biliary
ma'am.
pancreatitis also cause pain in the
Back.
upper abdomen, and that gets radiated to the back.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
okay. Next slide. Okay, patient gives history of nausea, vomiting. Okay, so whether that pain brings that vomiting.
Um, Ma'am.
So you didn't mention, because no aggravating or relieving factor for the pain you have written. But
Yes,
this slide you have given episodes of vomiting and non-projectile, watery, gastric content, not blood stain or bile stain. So
yes.
what you are going to for these symptoms? What is the reason?
Ma'am, bile is not secreted, so probably the food content is not digested, so that
So I think
vomiting.
these symptoms, I think patient must have an gastric outlet obstruction, nausea, vomiting. You told vomiting, non-projectile, small quantity, watery gastric content.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, not or blood or bile stain, not foul smelling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so patient had a history of nausea and vomiting. That's all.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this may be due to gastric outlet obstruction. Sometimes, if you have a pancreatic lesion, that also causes not only biliary obstruction, it also causes gastric outlet obstruction also.
Okay,
Where
ma'am.
if you have a lesion in the head of the pancreas, it causes both the biliary obstruction and the gastric outlet obstruction.
Okay, ma'am.
Huh? Okay, so then history of dyspepsia, loss of weight, and loss of appetite. Okay, next slide. And loss of weight, always you must mention. How will you
Okay, ma'am.
assess the patient has lost weight? What are the
Ma'am,
parameters?
yes, ma'am. Over the 6 months, if there is a loss of more than 10% means that is significant. Otherwise, if within 1 month more than 5% weight loss means that is also significant, ma'am.
Okay, 5% weight loss.
Yes, ma'am.
Previous weight. Okay. Okay. What's the significance of the blood transfusion?
Ma'am, in blood transfusion, sometimes hemolysis can happen. Otherwise, hepatitis C infection can happen. That can cause jaundice, ma'am. So to rule out that, I have asked, ma'am.
Okay. Blood transfusion history also
Yes, ma'am.
important. Okay. And drug intake? What drug that causes jaundice?
Thiazides, antiretroviral drugs, or some
Okay.
chemo,
Okay.
azathioprine, that and all. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So all these things to rule out the jaundice.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
No history of altered bowel habits. What is mean by altered bowel habits?
Ma'am, uh, normal excretion.
So
Yes, ma'am.
Suppose the patient is having daily patient is going for 1 or 2 times to the evacuate the bowel, and
Yes, ma'am.
recently patient has a habit of passing once in 3 days or 4 days. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
so that is
Yes,
the
ma'am.
altered bowel habits. What is mean by alternating bowel habits?
Alternating, I'm not sure, ma'am.
So there's a difference between the altered bowel habits and alternating bowel habits. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
altered bowel habits, the original the bowel habit of the patient will be altered. Suppose the patient is going once time per day, it will be altered. Sometimes the same patient have a the patient will be passing 2 times in a day. That will be a normal one. Okay. Sometimes that
Okay.
is the altered is called altered bowel habits. But the alternating is bowel habits means the patient having constipation for 1 day, and the next day patient is having diarrhea. So that
Oh,
alternates. Constipation and diarrhea will alternate is alternating bowel habits. Okay.
okay, ma'am.
Okay. What type of treatment patient has got for that jaundice? Written local hospital and was treated with oral medications.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Next slide. So patient diagnosed to have diabetes mellitus is a recent diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. Is there anything
Yes,
related with your present symptom?
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, new onset diabetes can be a sign of pancreatic cancer, ma'am.
Okay. So that should be in your mind. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Any other past history? No other medical comorbidities? No history of jaundice or biliary colic in the past? Okay. 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 Next. Person patient attained menopause 15 years back. Okay, okay.
Yes.
Any history of a oral contraceptive pill intake?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything related with that oral contraceptive?
Yes, ma'am. It can increase the carcinoma of uh, the carcinoma of liver and I
Mm.
think pancreas.
So OCP causes cholestasis. Patient will have a go for a jaundice. So history of jaundice, drug related, you can ask. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Treatment history, no previous abdominal surgeries, particularly gastric surgeries. Okay, you must ask. And other patient underwent any gallbladder surgery. Okay, all
Yes,
this
ma'am.
you should ask. Okay, okay. So
Okay.
with this history, you have to examine. Okay, so you just ask
Yes.
your colleague to present the examination.
Okay, ma'am. Uh, my friend will presentation, ma'am.
Oh, okay, you can switch off.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Pa.
Ma'am, I'm going to present on the examination part, ma'am. Can I share the
Yes.
presentation?
Okay, start.
Can you see the presentation, ma'am?
Yes, yes, visible.
Sorry. Okay. First, general examination. The patient is conscious, cooperative, and well-oriented to time and place. And he is moderately built and poorly nourished. No signs of pallor, cyanosis, or clubbing, and no pedal edema, no significant generalized lymphadenopathy, and no signs of dehydration is there.
Okay, Mani, and
The
just switch off the switch on the next slide. The
uh,
presentation stands still.
Can you see, ma'am, now?
The first slide one day I have to, so it's not getting changed.
Oh,
Yes.
Ma'am, is it changing now?
Yes, very good. It's changing.
So no signs of dehydration, and the patient presents with icteric, that is yellow color discoloration in sclera, floor of mouth, and abdominal wall.
Okay,
And the patient
when 1 minute, when you have a jaundice, how
Yes,
will
ma'am.
you note the pallor? Or the patient is
Ma'am,
anemic?
in the we have to see for pallor in the lower conjunctiva, ma'am, lower palpebral conjunctiva.
Yes. So you have to see the sclera for the then lower conjunctiva and then
For pallor.
nail bed and other thing. But sometimes
Yes,
it's very difficult to commit the patient is pallor. Okay.
Yes. The patient has scratch marks over the legs and the forearm, and no other signs of liver cell failure is present.
So what are the signs you have to look for liver cell failure?
There may be a mental hepatic encephalopathy may be there.
Signs of liver failure.
So general signs of liver failure indicates jaundice, loss of appetite, etc.
That all jaundice and other thing is your clinical history. On examination,
Yes,
from head to foot, what are all the on examination only? Now you are presenting examination. Okay. So what are all the things you can see? This could be a sign of liver cell failure. Are you able to see the gynecomastia or
don't know, ma'am.
are you able to see the caput medusae? You have one diagram in your book where that will depict the signs of liver cell failure.
Okay, ma'am.
Are you able to? Have you seen that picture?
No, ma'am.
So you must be aware of the liver cell
Okay, ma'am.
failure. Okay, so there are a lot of things.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So the symptoms may be fatigue, loss of weight, loss of appetite, and other thing. But the sign, you can see the tremor.
Okay, ma'am.
So that is a flapping type of tremor. So and ascites. So all these things with that medicine book, you have a one picture.
Okay, ma'am.
So you can go and see that picture that will be mentioned every time. From the head to foot, it will describe pedal edema and gynecomastia and ascites and caput medusae and diputens contractures, and so all these things will be there.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am. Let's see.
So in medicine you can see, and the surgery book also it will be depicted. And in male you have a that is testicular atrophy.
Gynecomastia.
So in one picture they will they will give all these things. The dilated waist, that is caput medusae, and examination you will have a splenomegaly, ascites. Okay. So and in sometimes the breath will be smells like freshly open. There is some fetal hepaticus. Okay, so that will be there.
Okay, ma'am.
So that are all the effects of the signs of the liver cell failure. Okay, all these things, this will be very important not only for surgery, is important for medicine also, where you will be presenting your what is that jaundice, hepatitis. Okay, jaundice, you have a hepatic jaundice, pre-hepatic, hepatic, and post-hepatic. Okay, so you must be aware of the signs of liver cell failure.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, proceed.
Then vital signs. The patient is afebrile at the time of the examination. The pulse rate is 72 beats per minute, and the respiratory rate is 18 per minute. The blood pressure is 118/78 millimeters of Hg.
Okay.
Then examination of the abdomen part. After getting consent from the patient is asked to strip up to the mid thigh and the examination started. On inspection, the abdomen contour is normal. No localized or generalized distension is seen. The flanks are not full. Umbilicus is in the midline, and all quadrants move equally with respiration. We can see the yellowish discoloration of the anterior abdominal wall. No scars, sinuses, or dilated veins, and there are no visible peristalsis or pulsation. And the hernial orifices are free, and the renal angle are also free. Supraclavicular area or supraclavicular fossa, there is no fullness.
Okay.
On palpation, the patient is asked to lie in a supine position with the knees flexed and arms by the side of the body. And on palpation, no warmth is felt. And there is tenderness over the right hypochondrium region and epicondrium on deep epigastrium on deep palpitation. Sorry, so deep palpation. And there is a globular mass is palpable in the right hypochondrium. The size of the mass is 3 × 3 centimeter, and the margins are all ill-defined. Surface is smooth and firm in consistency, and the mass moves with respiration, and also the side-to-side mobility is there. There are no signs of organomegaly is there. And in renal angle, no mass is palpable. Hernial orifices are free, and supraclavicular fossa is also free.
Okay.
Then on percussion, the liver span is normal, and we can feel the dullness over the mass, the globular mass. And in other parts of the abdomen, the noticed tympanic, and there are no free fluid presence.
Okay.
And on auscultations, normal bowel sounds here, no brute and no venous hum.
Okay.
And there is no palpable paraumbilical and left supraclavicular node. Other system examination, respiratory system, normal vesicular blood sounds heard. On CVS, S1, S2 normally heard, and there are no murmurs. And central nervous system, no focal neurological deficit, ma'am. Probable diagnosis obstructive jaundice, probably due to the common bile duct obstruction. And the differential diagnosis may be carcinoma of the head of the pancreas, periampullary carcinoma, double impaction of stone, or cholangiocarcinoma.
Okay, you go back to your examination slide. Okay, next. Next. So inspection abdomen contour is normal. Okay, so that thing is enough. No need to write no localized or generalized distension. Okay, abdomen contour normal, then it's okay. And all quadrants move equally with respiration. Okay, and no visible peristalsis or pulsation. Okay, no visible swelling is seen. Okay, so and umbilicus midline and normal. So if you mention is in the midline, it is in the normal position, and no nothing. Normal means no scar or no sinuses around the umbilicus, and no umbilical nodules. Okay, so you need not write everything.
Okay, ma'am.
So when you write umbilicus, normal position and normal, if you mention both, that's enough.
Okay, ma'am.
So and yellowish discoloration of the anterior abdominal wall means anterior abdominal wall, whether it is in the which quadrant you are able to see, or the whole anterior abdominal wall, that should be mentioned. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
And the one point you missed is whether any visible swelling seen or not.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, hernial orifice is free, renal angle, no normal, and supraclavicular area normal. Okay, next. Okay, and tenderness over the right hypochondrium and epigastrium and deep palpation, globular mass. Okay, next. No organ mass. So liver is normal or abnormal, you must mention on palpation. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So that globular swelling is separate from the liver or is arising from the liver. So that should be mentioned.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
So here globular mass palpable in the right hypochondrium. This is sometimes 3 into 3 centimeter is sometimes very difficult to palpate.
Okay, ma'am.
And moves with respiration, that is most important. And side to side mobility, I think also is very difficult to demonstrate. Okay. And another thing, no organomegaly. Instead of that, liver normal, liver span is normal. That should be
Okay,
mentioned. And spleen, you must mention. And you need not to write this renal angle. The supraclavicular fossa normal and hernial orifices is normal.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, next. Liver span normal, and the percussion over the mass is dullness. Whether that dullness continues to the liver dullness, that point is important. Because
okay, ma'am.
If the liver dullness continues with the dullness over the mass, this could be probably arising from the
gallbladder.
Liver.
Oh, sir.
Okay. Okay. Suppose if you percuss the liver, you will get a dull note. So the same dullness is continuous with the mass or not. That is most important. Whether it's arising from the liver or not, or the liver dullness is separate and the mass dullness is separate. And another thing, and if you are able to palpate the gap between the liver and your mass, that's also something important. Okay. In the case of gallbladder swelling, you cannot able to get the difference between the border. So usually the most important thing is it usually moves with the respiration. That is the one important point. Okay, gallbladder swelling moves with the respiration because of its attachment with the liver and with the diaphragm. When you take a deep breath, it moves with the diaphragm moves. And it when the diaphragm comes down, you will be able to see the swelling also touches your examination finger. So movement with respiration is important. And another thing, dullness, whether it is continuous the liver dullness, or are you able to see any gap in between the swelling and the liver? Suppose if you have a swelling, have a gap in between your liver and this swelling, this is not definitely not a gallbladder swelling. This must be a swelling arising from the bowel. Either it's a small bowel or stomach from the pyloric region. So that swelling will be a hard swelling that will be different from that of your liver and different from that of gallbladder. So this will not move with the respiration, and this dullness will be different from your liver dullness. Okay, so always 2 points. When it moves with the respiration is important. Whether it is free from
dullness
the
is continuous.
Whether dullness is continuous with the liver dullness or not. That is, these 2 points are important in your gallbladder swelling.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. And no free fluid. What are all the methods to find out whether the free fluid is there or not in the abdominal cavity?
We can see for the flank, ma'am.
So on inspection, if you see the flank fullness, what are all the reason for the flank fullness?
Ascites may be there, ma'am.
F. Fluid and fat. Some people may be very obese, so they will have a full flank. Pregnancy, fetus, F. Okay. So if you have a fluid, then you will have a, if that depends upon the amount of fluid only, you will get a blank fullness. So if you have a very minimal fluid, what is the method of detecting that minimal amount of fluid? Suppose the peritoneal cavity is having 150 ml of peritoneal fluid. How will you identify the patient is having free fluid or not by your clinical examination?
Clinically, we can go for USG.
That is another extended examination nowadays. But before that, so if you have a very minimal fluid, what is meant by shifting dullness?
And sometimes there are
shifting dullness that can be clinically examined by shifting dullness. You just percuss from the midline towards the right or left. So usually when you percuss, you will get a tympanic note. When you go laterally, either right side or left side, when you go laterally, that the note will change from tympanic to dull note.
Dull note,
Just,
okay.
So whenever you are examining the supine position, so the fluid tends to gravitate to the lateral side. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So the midline you will get a tympanic note, and when you go laterally, dull note. So you just identify that area dull note. You keep the finger. Okay. You just ask the patient to turn the opposite side. Okay, without removing the finger, you just keep the finger and wait for a minute. So that suppose if you have a fluid, minimal fluid in the abdominal cavity, that will get shifted to the opposite side.
Yes, sir.
When you percuss again, you will feel a
tympanic note.
So that was the shifting dullness.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so very minimal fluid shifting dullness can be, that is a percussion method. Suppose if you have a 1000 ml fluid in the peritoneal cavity, you will get a fluid thrill. How will you see fluid thrill? So fluid thrill, you just ask your colleague or patient hand to be placed in the midline, and from one side you have to tap with your finger, and your other hand should be placed opposite side, and you can feel the impulse traveling through the fluid, and you can feel the thrill. That is called fluid thrill. For that you must need minimum 1000 ml.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
ml. What is Puddle sign? PUDDLE, Puddle sign. So have you heard of that?
No, ma'am.
Nowadays it was not done. Suppose if you have a very minimal fluid, minimal fluid, that is around 150 ml. So usually that tends to collect around the umbilicus when the patient is in the knee elbow position. So when you ask the patient in the knee elbow position, all this will collect around the umbilicus. When you percuss around the umbilicus, you will have a dull. Okay, so for Puddle sign, you should have a 150, around 100 to 150 ml. For a shifting dullness, around 400 to 500 ml. And it is more than 1000 ml, it is fluid thrill.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, these are all the three things when you have a free fluid in the abdomen examination.
Okay,
so always you have that is a lot of gadgets you can find out the thing. So ultrasound, CT, you can use for the free fluid, but on clinical examination, so minimal fluid, Puddle sign, shifting dullness, and
thrill, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, next slide.
Auscultation.
Okay, auscultation, normal bowel sounds, no bruit, no venous hum. Okay, how will you examine this paraumbilical lymph node? What is the methodology you are following? Is it possible to find out Paraumbilical?
We have to depalpate the umbilical region.
So that is not the paraumbilical, para-aortic.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, examination of the lymph nodes. No palpable. Usually, I think it's very difficult to palpate the para-aortic lymph nodes unless always it's very much enlarged, and that also very difficult.
Okay, ma'am.
So you just mention is no supraclavicular lymph node in
Supraclavicular
the
lymph node.
unmarked.
Okay, ma'am.
So because usually left supraclavicular is more significant because of the gastric malignancy and other things. They will
Yes, ma'am.
get involved in the left supraclavicular
Left
region.
supraclavicular enlargement. Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
So no need to write this paraumbilical.
Paraumbilical.
So if at
Okay,
all
ma'am.
if you want no examination of the abdomen itself, you can find out no other mass palpable. So if they
Okay,
ask
ma'am.
for the masses, you can say para-aortic nodes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so like that you can say but no para-umbilical.
Okay, ma'am.
Next slide. Always in a case of abdominal examination, you must mention rectal examination. That is more important.
Okay, ma'am. Correct.
Okay, and being the lady, that patient, you have to mention vaginal examination. So both should be written in your
Mentioned.
thesis. You should
Okay,
mention
ma'am.
rectal examination to be done, vaginal examination to be done. Then the examiner will ask, what do you expect in the rectal examination? Suppose if you have a malignancy, gastric malignancy, you can have a deposits. Okay? Blumber's shelf nodule will be there. Rectovesical nodule will be there. So for that you have to examine. Or sometimes you may find a rectal malignancy, a rectal lesion that may cause metastasis in the liver that causes obstructive jaundice.
Okay, ma'am.
So always it's it's very important that you have to mention rectal and vaginal examination. So that only completes the examination of abdomen. So like when you examine the 10th quadrant, that external genitalia and other thing, here also the perabdominal examination, rectal examination is very important in the abdomen examination. So after that only you have to go for other system examination. Normal vesicular person and other thing. And the skeletal system also you must mention. Whether patient is having any bony pain. Okay. So all these things should be mentioned. Next slide. Okay. A case of obstructive jaundice for evaluation, probably due to distal common bile obstruction, maybe due to malignancy without. So this long sentence is not necessary. Okay. It's a case of obstructive jaundice for evaluation, probably due to malignancy.
Okay, ma'am.
So you just mentioned the malignancy. No need to write the distal common bile duct or without inflammation. All these things added. A case of obstructive jaundice. Okay. The cause could be malignancy. It's not a benign. Why you are telling it's not a benign?
Ma'am, there is pain is there.
Okay, there are two types of jaundice: painful jaundice and painless jaundice.
Painless jaundice.
But here, in the history, she told that the patient is having pain.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it may be due to late stage of malignancy also.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, usually painful jaundice, you have a stone disease, you will have a
gallstones. Okay.
Yes. So considering the age, the possibility of
malignancy.
Okay. So like that you have to differentiate one by one.
Okay, ma'am.
So it's a case of obstructive jaundice, probably due to malignancy.
So,
the one thing we first, the next you can write periampullary or head of pancreas.
Okay.
Okay. No need to write this cholangiocarcinoma. Why you want to say double impaction of stone? Suppose if the examiner asks,
Because
you can
swelling
mention.
is there. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So
Okay,
what
ma'am.
are all the causes if they ask, you can say, but don't write all the thing, because if you write all these things, the examiner will ask lot of questions. You will get into the trouble. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So always minimize your differential diagnosis. That one, which is first thing that is
Okay.
most suitable for your clinical history and examination, and then your next differential thing.
Okay, ma'am.
That's itself enough. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So here, the first thing you can say is a periampullary
Carcinoma.
carcinoma and a carcinoma of the head of pancreas.
Head.
These two things you can write.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And cholangiocarcinoma, double impaction of stone, and a lot of differential diagnosis is there. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So you need not write all these things. So these two things is enough.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the malignancy you can give as a periampullary head of pancreas,
Head of pancreas.
cholangiocarcinoma. No need for double impaction.
Okay, ma'am.
Next slide. You have finished or investigation?
So general investigation, complete hemogram, random blood sugar, renal function test, ECG, chest X-ray, and all.
Okay.
And for specific investigation, we have to look for liver function test, in which we will see for total bilirubin level, direct bilirubin, and serum albumin levels, and ALP, ALT, and AST levels will be seen.
Okay.
In urine, we have to look for bile pigments, bile salts, or urobilinogen.
Okay.
And we have to do coagulation profile. Mainly prothrombin time and PT-INR will be seen.
Okay.
Then tumor markers are CA99 and CEA.
Okay.
And serum amylase and lipase test also done.
Okay.
Then imaging studies, USG abdomen, CECT,
Okay.
ERCP, MRCP, and MRI.
Okay.
And for surgery, if it's a resectable
Okay.
tumor, you can go.
Go to your investigations. So whenever the examination asks, what will you do next? So I will confirm my diagnosis by doing investigation. For the anatomical confirmation, the first thing you will do is your ultrasound.
Okay, ma'am.
First, always you go for an ultrasound.
Ultrasound. Okay, ma'am.
You only told this is an extended examination. Your
Yes,
ultrasound
ma'am.
is an extended examination of hand examination. So your ultrasound gives an idea of what is the lesion.
Okay, ma'am.
So what are the things you can see on ultrasound abdomen?
You can see for stones, ma'am, and intrahepatic biliary dilatation.
Very good.
Then stones can be seen.
Okay. Then okay. So when you place your probe over the right hypochondrium, you can find out the liver.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
whether the liver is normal or is enlarged. Okay. And then intrahepatic biliary radicals, whether it is enlarged, there is dilated. IHBR dilatation is there or not. Okay. And then you come to the gallbladder, because you told there is a globular swelling.
Yes, ma'am.
So whether the gallbladder is enlarged or not.
Yes.
Okay. So, and the next point, whether your common bile duct is normal or dilated.
Okay, ma'am.
Once your common bile duct is dilated, only you can get the IHBR dilatation. If the common bile duct is normal, you will not get anything. And your common bile duct can be traced up to your duodenum. Whether there is any narrowing of the common bile duct or any cutoff sign is there or not. Okay?
Yes,
so in that, whether you are able to see any mass lesion over the gallbladder, because gallbladder malignancy itself sometimes cause subsequent jaundice. So you must find out whether gallbladder is normal or enlarged, any collection is there, a stone is there, cystic duct is normal, or cystic duct is obstructed or common bile duct is obstructed, whether you can able to trace up to the common bile duct, up to the end. So all these things can be seen.
See, okay, ma'am.
So liver is over.
Yes.
Now you can move to the other aspects. Whether spleen is normal, whether any renal swelling is there, kidney is normal, and then your ascites is there or not.
Yes, ma'am.
So complete ultrasound abdomen is a must. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So initial ultrasound abdomen give an anatomical diagnosis whether this could be a gallbladder stone or a common bile duct stone or malignancy, or patient is having ascites or any other swelling. So all these things or preliminary diagnosis can be obtained from your ultrasound.
USG, yes, ma'am.
So always the first thing is you have to do ultrasound.
Yeah, ultrasound.
And then if at all you need, you have to go for another contrast enhanced CT. So additional information what you can get from the contrast that is a CT,
yes.
You can get the para-aortic nodes. So ultrasound sometimes you may not get the picture of para-aortic node involvement because your bowel gas disturbances and other things. You may not able to get the para-aortic node involvement and pancreatic lesions. These two, para-aortic and pancreas, these two cannot be clearly delineated by your ultrasound. So for that you have to go for a CT. Suppose if you have a lesion in the pancreas, you can find out the extent of the lesion and vascular involvement. All this can be clearly studied by your CT only, not by the ultrasound. Okay, the ultrasound is the initial thing. So they can just give a point towards that lesion. So the detailed study will be by your CT only. Okay, so always you have to do a CT to find out the extent of the lesion and other information that is needed for your further plan. That is, what are the other information, whether vascular involvement is there, whether lymph nodal involvement is there. Okay, so all this information can be additional information that will help for your making the decision of the treatment for the CT. So what is the role of ERCP and MRCP?
ERCP can be used for stenting purposes, for drainage of the bile, etc.
Okay.
If the and MRCP can be used to visualize if there is any lesion or obstruction in the higher part of the biliary tree.
So okay, what is the major difference between this ERCP and MRCP?
In ERCP is both diagnostic and therapeutic, but MRCP is only diagnostic.
Very good. ERCP is an invasive procedure. MRCP is a non-invasive. It's a diagnostic only. ERCP is both diagnostic and therapeutic. Because your patient, you told the yellowish discoloration of the anterior abdominal wall. So it's an intense jaundice. So the bilirubin level may be more than 25 or 30. So immediately you have to decompress the biliary system. Okay? So otherwise patient will go for a hepatorenal syndrome and hepatic encephalopathy. So immediately you have to decompress the biliary system by putting a stent. Okay? So for that you have to go for a ERCP. That is the most important thing. Okay, the ERCP that depends upon your bilirubin level. The further investigation, first ultrasound, then CT. Whether you have to go for MRCP or ERCP, that depends upon your investigation report and the patient's general condition. So if you want to decompress the biliary system, you have to go for a ERCP.
ERCP,
okay. Stenting, so that the biliary system will be decompressed. Patient will have a time to evaluate the further investigation. Okay, and you can prepare the patient for surgical management by other methods. Okay, MRCP that will give only a idea where is the site of the lesion, nature of the lesion, and whether it is a stone lesion or malignancy. All these things can be obtained from the MRCP.
MRCP.
So the major advantage of ERCP is therapeutic and diagnostic. Okay, that usually usually you will do ERCP when the bilirubin is very high.
Okay, ma'am.
Whenever you plan for stenting, you will do. Okay, so the other advantage is you can get a bile for the cytology. Okay,
FNAC.
you can, not FNAC, cytology.
Okay.
It is, you can take a bile
Okay.
as such, and if you have a tumor, there is cholangiocarcinoma, you can take that fluid for cytological examination.
Okay, ma'am.
So that is the advantage, and you can do both stenting, biliary stenting and pancreatic stenting also. Suppose if you have a pancreatic problem, pancreatic dilatation and other thing, you can do both, can be done. Pancreatic stenting and biliary stenting both can be done. That's the advantage of ERCP. MRCP, you cannot do any invasive procedure.
Okay, ma'am.
So, and there is no need for MRI. What's the purpose of MRI here?
So, MR angiogram can be done to see the involvement of the vascular compartment.
So, for that CCT, abdomen itself is enough. Whether you have any mesenteric, superior mesenteric artery involvement is there, or vein involvement is there, that CT itself is enough. Okay. For every investigation, 1, 2 benefits are there. So you cannot write all the investigations for one patient.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, you have to choose according to the patient and according to your plan of treatment also. Okay. So whenever the exam obstructive jaundice, the first is ultrasound abdomen, next is your CT, ERCP and MRCP depends upon the blood parameters level.
Bilirubin levels. Okay.
That depends upon the bilirubin level and your CSCT report. Because CSCT report gives a stone disease. Okay, and that stone is only in the gallbladder. And then what is the need for ERCP?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes, there is no need. Suppose if I had done ultrasound, only gallbladder stones are there, and done a CT, and the CT also shows only stones in the gallbladder. Then what is the need for ERCP? So no role. So that depends upon your initial investigations and blood parameters and the other thing. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So next slide.
Surgery, ma'am.
Okay, you just go back the blood investigation slide. So liver function test, the first important investigation you have to do.
Yes,
so in obstructive jaundice, you will get a increased conjugated bilirubin.
Yes,
that is most important. So you have to see the direct total bilirubin and direct and indirect, and the enzyme levels, whether the enzyme level is very much elevated or not, that is most important. And albumin is very, very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether the albumin is very low or high. Suppose albumin is very low, you have to prepare the patient for yes. The healing will be very that is you will not get a proper healing, so you have to prepare the patient, by giving albumin and other thing. So depends upon the liver function test only. Is the you can divide the jaundice into hemolytic jaundice and hepatocellular jaundice
or obstructive jaundice.
So that should be first done. Okay. Then your viral markers, HBsAg and anti-HCV, that should be done. And this is tumor marker, CA99 and CEA. Okay, so that also has to be done as a completion. Okay, so next. So go to the treatment part. So surgery, Whipple's procedure. Inoperable. Okay. So when you write a case sheet, you just write a provisional diagnosis, obstructive jaundice due to malignancy, periampullary carcinoma and carcinoma and cholangiocarcinoma. That's all. The treatment aspect, you just put a surgery. Okay. So if it is a periampullary carcinoma, you can go for a Whipple's procedure.
Whipple's
And
procedure.
head of the pancreas, you can go for a Whipple's procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
And cholangiocarcinoma also, if possible, you can go for a surgical management. Most of the time,
Yes, ma'am.
what is meant by cholangiocarcinoma?
The carcinoma of the common bile duct, ma'am. Distal CBD.
That is the bifurcation. So that is
Yes, ma'am.
cystic duct and the common hepatic duct joining. What is Klatskin tumor?
It's a tumor at the junction of the right and left hepatic duct.
Okay. So usually the presentation will be very late, and the
Okay,
malignancy
ma'am.
will be more advanced when you diagnose. Okay, it's
Okay,
very rare
ma'am.
to go for a surgery. Usually it will end in a that is symptomatic and management only by doing stenting and other thing, palliative management only.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this periampullary CA, after your assessment by your contrast enhanced CT and your
Yes, ma'am.
biopsy, you can proceed with the Whipple's procedure.
Whipple's procedure. Okay,
What
ma'am.
is mean by periampullary carcinoma? What are all it includes?
It includes all the carcinomas within 2 centimeter of the ampulla. So it includes carcinoma of
Yes.
head of pancreas.
Yes,
Then carcinoma of the distal common bile duct.
very good. Then
And then carcinoma of the duodenum.
yes. So duodenum, ampulla, and distal CBD and pancreas.
And the
All
pancreas.
these
Yes, ma'am.
include periampullary.
Periampullary. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how will you assess this operability?
No, I don't get it.
So how will you assess the operability? So you have planned, you are going to do a Whipple's procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the things that is most important for your surgical management? So you have planned for Whipple's procedure. Okay.
Yes.
So before that, you should have a preparation. That is for all surgery is different, and this patients with obstructive jaundice patient preparation is different.
We
Okay.
have to look for any involvement of the artery or vein.
So not only that investigation wise, the patient's preparation is more important. The patient should be should not be anemic, should not be hypoproteinemic. Their coagulation profile should be corrected.
Normal. Okay.
The hydration should be improved, and patient should not have a cholangitis. They should not have a fever or anything. So they should have a proper urine output. So the preparation of the jaundice patient is very, very, very important before going for surgical management. Okay, that is what, suppose if you are going to do a hernia surgery, that is different.
Yes,
okay, suppose you are going for a breast surgery, that is different. But when you are going for a obstructive jaundice patient, surgical management, you're planning for a major surgical procedure like Whipple's, always you should prepare the patient. The patient preparation is very, very, very important. Okay, all of a sudden you cannot go and do a Whipple's procedure. So today patient admitted, tomorrow you are not going, you can't go for the surgical management. So patient preparation is very important. So what are all the things you have to see for the hemoglobin? If the patient is anemic, that should be corrected. You have to see for the
coagulation
liver function test, serum albumin, that is total protein level should be examined, and that should be corrected. Otherwise, what will happen? Your wound healing will be very poor. So if you do anastomosis, that will break. Okay, so there will be a leak and other morbidity will be there. So that also should be corrected, and coagulation profile should be corrected. Usually, you will have a what abnormality you will find in obstructive jaundice patient.
Prothrombin deficiency will be there, ma'am. So
Yes,
PT
prothrombin
will be
will be
increased.
increased. So that should
Yes,
be corrected. That should be given importance. So that can
yes,
be corrected by giving vitamin K injection.
yes,
5 days you can give vitamin K injection. Suppose that also is not getting corrected by your injection, that you have to give a fresh frozen plasma. So
okay,
always you have to correct the PT INR before going for a surgery. Okay,
okay, ma'am.
and the patient should have adequate urine output. That renal parameter should be normal.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
so you have to properly hydrate the patient. So otherwise, what will happen? This causes this bile pigments causes injury to the glomerular that will lead on to glomerular necrosis. The patient will be going for hepatorenal syndrome. Okay,
Okay,
so
ma'am.
proper hydration is important. And another thing, because of this cholangitis, patient will go for infection. So antibiotic, third generation cephalosporins, antibiotics very, very, very important. So
Yes,
with
ma'am.
all these patients preparation only, and after correction of coagulation profile only, you have to take the patient for Whipple's
Surgery.
procedure if the patient is operable.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Sorry. Suppose if it is an inoperable, what are all the things you will see by investigation? This is inoperable. By clinical, this is inoperable. So clinically, what are all the things that is inoperable?
Um,
Clinically, ascites.
say it is distant metastasis.
Yes, yes, metastasis and ascites.
If there is a
Okay.
peritoneum or a momentum involvement.
By investigation, clinically, you can say the patient with the ascites, you can say probably this patient is not fit for surgery.
Surgery, okay, ma'am.
And investigation wise, what are the things? By CT, if you have an involvement of the supramesenteric vein,
Supramesenteric artery
focal vein,
involvement.
yes.
Hepatic artery
So
involvement.
yes, all these things you have to look for. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So if it is operable only, you can go for Whipple's procedure. So
Yes,
what are
ma'am.
all the structures you will remove in the Whipple's?
We will remove a part of the pancreas and duodenum, ma'am. Pancreaticoduodenectomy.
Yes, this is Whipple's is nothing but pancreaticoduodenectomy.
Yes, ma'am.
So head and neck of the pancreas and the whole duodenum and
Common bile duct.
proximal 5 to 10 centimeter of the jejunum also, and
Okay.
then distal common bile duct and gallbladder. All this should be removed. How will you reconstruct?
By
So you have
doing
removed.
jejunostomy, ma'am. Pancreaticojejunostomy, gastrojejunostomy, and hepatojejunostomy.
Very good. Hepaticojejunostomy, pancreaticojejunostomy, and gastrojejunostomy.
Gastro.
Yes. These are all the reconstruction after your removal of the thing. So if it is inoperable,
Palliative treatment, ma'am. Stenting.
palliative either by doing stenting or by doing surgical procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So palliative, choledochojejunostomy along with gastrojejunostomy.
Yes, triple bypass.
And one minute, you have written inoperable cholecystectomy. What is that cholecystectomy?
Ma'am, in case of stones.
No. If it is an inoperable, okay, only way is just doing a diversion.
Okay,
You should
ma'am.
not remove anything. You should not remove a gallbladder or anything. Just to do a cholecystectomy if there is no obstruction in the cystic duct. Okay. Or you can do a choledochojejunostomy, gastrojejunostomy. That's all.
Okay, ma'am.
The other thing, best thing to relieve the jaundice is only doing ERCP stenting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And cholecystectomy with the bile duct exploration followed by Kerr's tube incision for drainage.
For stones, ma'am.
Stone
Stones in
purpose.
CBD. Yes, ma'am.
The stone dealing is different. Stone,
Okay,
if you have a only common bile duct stone, If possible, if you are expertise, you can do laparoscopic cholecystectomy and laparoscopic CBD exploration, and
Yes.
you can put a T-tube drainage. Okay, or
Yes,
that can
ma'am.
be done in open also.
Okay, ma'am.
Or you can remove the common bile duct stones, and you just do only laparoscopic cholecystectomy alone. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
that stone benign disease is a different treatment. This malignancy is Whipple's for periampullary and pancreatic head of carcinoma.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Whipple's alone is enough, and the structures removed and the reconstruction method. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
I think this much is enough for today. Otherwise, if I take long time, you'll be saturated. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Any
Okay, ma'am.
doubt? If you have any doubt, you can ask for another 5 minutes.
Now, can I stop the presentation, ma'am?
Okay, pa. You can switch off
Uh,
presentation.
Thank you,
But
ma'am.
anyway, nice presentation, nice discussion also. I think you have read, which book you have read? Bailey?
Ma'am, no, ma'am. DOS I have seen and some things from Google, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any question from anyone? Manihandan? Hello?
Hello, ma'am.
Uh, yes, pa? Hello?
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
கேக்குதா பேசுறது?
கேக்குது மேம். ஹலோ.
யாருமா ரெப்ரசன்டேட்டிவ்?
மேம் கார்த்திகா மேம்.
கார்த்திகாட்ட சொல்லி இன்னைக்கு உள்ள அட்டெண்டன்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து மெசேஜ் பண்ண சொல்லுங்கப்பா.
Okay, ma'am.
I think around 62 people have attended. On in between, I have seen 62 students attended.
Ma'am, Karthika is there, ma'am.
Okay, okay, okay. So, any questions, Sarah?
I guess no, ma'am.
Okay, 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 pa.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.